It is May 26th. We're here with Sheriff William Honsal for his media availability. The first media question we have today is, do you think the county behaved responsibly this Memorial weekend?
I think overall, I think our county did a pretty good job. You know, we had a beautiful weekend here. We saw some nice weather, and people got out, and they went up and down to different areas of our county, and so I think for the most part, we did good. So.
Great. And were there many deputies out patrolling beaches, lakes, rivers this weekend? And if so, was anybody cited for violating safety guidelines?
So we had our full complement of deputies out. That's essentially 2 deputies in all these beat areas. And so we patrolled Big Lagoon all the way through the rivers, down the coastline, all the way to Shelter Cove this weekend. And for the most part, they saw compliance with our local health orders. And though we saw a lot of people congregating in some certain areas, there were compliance checks made, and people were sticking with their households and staying that physical distancing 6 feet apart. So overall, I think it was good.
And was anybody cited for violating?
No one was cited that I'm aware of as far as at least the sheriff's office jurisdiction goes.
Last week, Sheriff Honsal urged no tourism over the holiday weekend. Has the HCSO received any blowback from leaders in the local tourism industry? And how many citations were issued to out-of-area folks recreating over the long weekend?
So we have people that were not too thrilled about that statement that was made by me last week regarding we don't want tourism here, and so we do see a little bit of people sharing that frustration here. But my goal is to protect our residents here in our county, and so we don't want people coming here to vacation and seeking relief from their areas like the Bay Area and Southern California that are on strict lockdowns, and so. We're not the oasis for them to come hang out with and to potentially push COVID into our community. So my goal is to back up the health officer and to not allow travel here within our county, and so that's important to me, is protect our citizens. Now, mind you, we're not setting up roadblocks. We're not setting up checkpoints to check people's papers. We also understand that there are people that are traveling essentially from wherever through Humboldt County to a destination up north or destination down south. And so they do have a right to stop and stay overnight somewhere. We don't want them on the road, when they're traveling dazed from one destination to another. So there are people that stay over the night, in different places, on their way through. And so that is essentially, I think, a good compromise here, but again, we don't want people vacationing. We don't want people going out and about and intermingling with our folks, and especially obviously spreading COVID or making, if they're sick, or bringing those kind of things into our county. So.
Okay. The reporter says, we have reports of large numbers of people over this weekend at popular Southern Humboldt beaches like the Miranda Bridge, Sylvandale, and Hidden Springs. The issues seem likely to continue through the summer. These areas generally don't have bathrooms or garbage disposal available. What is the county doing to address the concerns of local residents who worry about impacts as visitors line the roadways, leave trash, possibly cause disease with human waste, and have COVID-19 concerns?
Well, listen, this is Humboldt County. We have, all the wild rivers, we have coastlines, we have people that are using this beautiful area to explore. And so what you've been taught from the very beginning is pack in, pack out, right? So we're not going to we shouldn't create any messes in these areas that we're recreating in. So if you're going to take, a vacation some time at the beach or the river, make sure you police up all your trash and take care of those things. And then, there are no bathrooms. You should prepare for that. So you shouldn't spend a awful long, time where you need to use the bathroom. So that's what you need to do, is prepare for those kind of situations. If you need to use a bathroom, make sure you go to a place that does have access to a bathroom. And there are some parks that are set up for day use that do have bathrooms available, do have outhouses available, and so make sure that you recreate near a place like that if you do need it. So it's responsible to keep our county clean, so I urge people to make sure that you do pack in and you pack out whatever you bring.
Can you talk about crime and calls for service you received over Memorial Day weekend? We are still under shelter in place, but did you see an increase in calls, etc.?
We didn't see a huge increase, but we do still see a steady increase in domestic violence type, crimes. So domestic disturbances are happening. Fights between parents and children, spouses, people can't get along with their neighbors and those kind of things. We do hear those, and so we did get some shots fired calls, or at least the parents are hearing shots fired calls, around the county. So we are responding to those kind of things as well. But we do see that crime is pretty much steady. But like Eureka Police Department, they've had 2 homicides this last week, and so the potential for violence is there. We understand that. We have increased patrol in the Cutton area as a response to the recent homicide that occurred there, and so we're doing our best to make sure that we are a visible deterrent throughout the county. But I just again want to reiterate, even though people are sheltering in place and people are staying home, they really should continue to lock their doors, to use their lighting, exterior lighting, to make sure that you're doing those things that make sure that you don't become a victim, those preventative measures. So don't keep anything in your vehicles, because thefts do occur. We did have a theft in Southern Humboldt where a place got burglarized, and we were able to find the suspect and retrieve and get most of the property back, so that was good. But thefts are occurring throughout the county, so please don't make yourself a victim by allowing someone the opportunity to steal your stuff if possible.
And earlier, as the COVID crisis first unfolded, crime issues seem to have subsided, but more recently we seem to be seeing an urge. Could you give us a clear picture of what crimes are doing? Are crimes as a whole rising? If so, which specifically are rising the most? Are some crimes still remaining low? And if so, which ones?
So overall, crime, our calls for service are down, but we do see as people are kind of coming out from shelter in place, that people are going and intermixing and those kind of things, and there are crimes that are occurring throughout the county. One thing we did notice that our deaths, through our coroner's office have been down lately, and also talking to the CHP, traffic accidents have been down because there's people that aren't traveling, and so we do see those kind of positive effects, that traffic deaths are low and those kind of things because there's less people on the road, right? But there's still crime is still occurring, and like I said, domestic violence calls are still kind of leading the way, and then slowly we're getting more and more thefts cases and those kind of things. So like I said, we haven't seen a huge uptick in crime, but there is still crime out there, so please be prepared, do those things to protect yourself, and make sure you don't become a victim of a crime here in the county.
As shelter-in-place rage is becoming more and more prevalent, what is the Sheriff's Office doing to deter violence, especially in domestic situations?
So we want to urge people, number one, to, as the weather starts to get nice here, is to make sure that you take a break, okay, whatever that is. So sometimes the best thing to do is walk off something, to make sure that you don't stay in a situation that's going to cause someone to become angry or those kind of things, to create some distance between you and maybe a loved one that you're in an argument with. The worst thing we can do is continue to escalate a situation by staying in a situation that it causes that confrontation. So we don't want that to happen. We do want to also steer people towards our mental health crisis lines here in the county. You can easily find those, through our website or Googling Humboldt County Mental Health. And so we can help people talk through this issue. And so it's important that people do reach out. Also, people that are a victim of domestic violence, reach out to Humboldt Domestic Violence. These are advocates that are there to help and to help people steer through some advocacy groups and get some counseling and help that they do need. Also, the District Attorney's Office has victim advocates that are able to help people and steer people to an avenue that can help them if they're in some kind of a crisis situation.
As places begin reopening, can you talk about the impact an increasing case count may have on the progress of opening back up in the business certification program? For example, the businesses are allowed to submit their plans for reopening, then once approved can reopen. Will this process be slowed down at all with an increase in cases?
So yeah, the cases are being approved, and we're pushing out a lot of retail businesses right now, and other businesses throughout the county are being approved, and they're having the compliance certificates issued to them. But this process can be slowed at any time if the health officer believes that there's significant spread of COVID-19 through in our community. So we want to keep an eye on that. We understand that as we open more things up, that there will be more community transmission. There'll be people that will come down with COVID. We've expanded our testing, and so it will happen. the fact is that we shelter in place to prepare for people getting sick. In the hospitals, we have also an overflow, basically, and that will allow more people to be treated here in our county. So we are working with our hospitals. We do not want people to get sick, but we understand that that is ultimately, may happen here in our county as we start opening things up, and that does happen. So we are prepared for that, but the health officer, her duty is to make sure that our county is protected. And so if our numbers continue to go up, our hospitalizations go up, our deaths go up, that there's something that we're going to keep track of and make sure that we can always dial back on those certifications, dial back on more businesses opening up. We're opening things up based upon a risk assessment right now. And so even though the governor is kind of, it's hard to predict what he's going to do next, and there's things that were in phase 3 that he now says can open up now in phase 2. Salons is one of those things. Churches is one of those things. And so we are trying to do what we can to stay up with that and offer certifications for that process, but we are going to go down the line, and when the health officer has determined that they're safe to open up new business and new sectors, we're going to do that. The last thing we want to do is close businesses, right, and go back to shelter in place. That would be the worst thing that can happen. We all recognize that. So we want to make sure that the businesses that open have these restrictions in place and that can stay open despite what maybe can happen in a future emergency.
Absolutely. So the reporter says that they've received reports of businesses that are refusing to ask customers to wear masks, which has caused other locals to fear for their health. How many citations has the Sheriff's Office issued for failure to wear a mask, and what are you doing about businesses that aren't requiring customers to wear masks?
So businesses, we're not requiring them to ask their customers to wear a mask. We ask people to have a masking requirement, but it's not the business's job to enforce that. They can have a policy in place, and they can refuse service for someone who doesn't want to wear a mask. And someone can claim their constitutional rights or whatever else they want to do, but still that business has the right to not serve anyone for any various reasons, right? No shirt, no shoes, no service kind of a thing. So a business can stand behind that, but a business can also choose not to enforce that. They have to have their employees have a facial covering, but they don't necessarily need to require their customers to have a facial covering. So it is a situation where we have a free market and a free society here. And so if you walk into a business and you don't feel it's safe, despite the fact that it may have a compliance certificate or not, you don't have to shop there. And so you can turn around and go shop somewhere else. So that's something that, we want people to make sure that if you don't feel comfortable, don't shop at a location like that.
And how do you respond to people who argue that they have a constitutional right not to wear a mask?
Well, right now, as far as, constitutional right or not, this is something that we can all do to help one another out, okay? And so as far as the freedom of wearing a mask or not, that is something, this is the order of a public health officer that has the backing of the Health and Safety Code. It is a misdemeanor to violate that. There are some avenues where people can opt not to wear a mask when it's an ADA type issue, when they have a disability that prevents them to safely using a mask, then they don't have to wear a mask, but that is because you have a disability, not because it's a constitutional right. Now, mind you, we're taking all this into consideration, and so we want to go out and enforce the law, but we also want to make sure that people are compliant here. And so again, education is first. We are documenting people that we come in contact with that don't have a facial covering in public, and that they can receive a warning. If they receive more than one warning, then they could get a citation, and then it's up to them in order to either take it to court or pay the fine or whatever else that could be associated.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about today?
No, I just, the certification process is going to be, coming out, about dine-in services are going to be opening up later this week. And so I know there's going to be some movement on that. Salons and barbershops, have the opportunity to apply for certifications. And so that'll open up sometime soon here. So the health officer will be reviewing those and making sure that, again, it's based upon risk. And so also churches will open up can open up this week, for church services. There are some restrictions on that. Churches don't have to necessarily go through the compliance certification process, but they can submit their plans. We have guidance on our website, and we can help them with that. And I think it boosts people's confidence in going back to church when they do have some compliance certification through the county. So we have that guidance there to help out churches do that, and continue to look at our website, look at these variances that do occur, and that we can help people, establish their business, and making sure that they do have everything correctly when they do open up.
Great.
But I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.